program will start in 5 minutes. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Talastasan Art and Creativity Conversation Series. We are now on our fourth lecture today. To give his opening remarks, let us call on the Chancellor of University of the Philippines, Baguio, Professor Rovilios.
Good morning, everyone. Dean Jimmy Fong, Dean of the College of Arts and Communications, who should be giving the welcome remarks today, but he couldn't. Students from other schools, mga K to 12 ba kayo o college? K to 12, what school? City High, that's my school, high school. I can see friends, designers from fashion designers, Harvick and sorry, Jad, and other friends from outside UP Baguio. I'm happy to see you. Colleagues from the Fine Arts and the Department of Language and Literature. Welcome. I really personally wanted to include or even focus the Talastasan series on design thinking and creative economy. Because you know we are being this lecture series is really part of the Entacul Baguio being a creative UNESCO creative city on crafts and folk arts. But I believe that we should think beyond the traditional designs already. Although we got the UNESCO declaration for tradition, primarily tradition and folk arts, but we have to think ahead already because we have to innovate. We have to go beyond the existing state of the arts, no, in the various cultural forms in the city of Baguio, particularly in crafts and folk arts. So I'm not an expert on the topic, but I listened to it in some forums and read some articles. And I believe there's so much to learn about this idea because, for example, in the case of Bandung city that was mentioned by our first speaker, design thinking is the guiding principle or framework in solving the city's urban problems, not only in innovations in arts and in crafts, but also a way, it's really a paradigm to think about uh, social issues and environmental problems from the perspective of the arts and design thinking. Isn't that interesting? Because in the past, problems have always been solved by the scientists. No, this time let's listen to the artists. No, what's their take on environmental and social issues? So, Thank you very much, Professor Tudtud, from UP Cebu, known to be a design city, although not yet a UNESCO city, I believe. And thank you for flying over to Baguio and share your experience. It's our first time in Baguio City. Again, welcome everyone, and let this be another learning experience. Maraming salamat po sa ating lahat.
Thank you, Chancellor. Now, before I introduce to you the guest speaker, let me just read first the abstract of today's lecture. The quest for sustainability of the local handicraft industry transforms the perception about products, technological processes, and business models. Industry players develop initiatives to address the dwindling supply of raw materials and seasonality of demand. But they're looking into product innovation could attain long-term sales projection that ultimately results to organizational growth and sustainability. To achieve this, understanding the dynamic concept of design thinking is fundamental. This is a multidimensional, systematic approach from empathizing customers' unfulfilled needs to developing a creative, innovative, and sustainable product. This design framework is not problem-oriented, rather solution-oriented. The interface is user and prototype-centered, demonstrating key functionality and resolving technical aspects of the design. This enables the creation of distinctive features in the making it difficult for competitors to copy or imitate. Adopting this direction as a business philosophy responds to intense competition and challenging market environments. And now, to introduce the guest speaker, our guest speaker is a Master of Creative Industries, major in Creative Production and Arts Management who earned her Master's at Queensland University of Technology, Australia. She's a Bachelor of Fine Arts major in Painting degree holder from University of the Philippines, Cebu, and also a proud alumna of the Philippine High School for the Arts at Mount Makiling, Los Baños, Laguna. She is a visual arts practitioner. She has mounted 5 solo exhibitions and participated in more than 50 group shows in the Philippines and abroad. In 2007, she was a regional winner of the Philippine Art Awards and a national finalist the succeeding year. In 2013, she was selected to join the Mugna group of artists from Cebu who went to Paris for an artist in residency program. She served at the National Commission for Culture and the Arts Committee on Visual Arts as executive member and national vice chair. She has coordinated numerous projects with Creative Council of Cebu, Arts Council of Cebu, and the Department of Trade and Industry in Central Visayas. Currently, she is an assistant professor teaching studio arts and product design courses, and she also manages the Fabrication Laboratory of the College of Communication, Art and Design at the University of the Philippines, Cebu. Mga panauhin, mga kapwa scholar ng bayan, nalulugod tayong ipakilala at tanggapin si Professor Palmy Tudtud.
Chancellor Robelius, Dean Jimmy Fong, my colleagues, of course, here as faculty in the Fine Arts program in the Department of Communication. Magandang umaga po. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much, UP Baguio, for the invitation. Yes, sir, it's my first time in UP Baguio, and it's my second time in Baguio City. It is always refreshing to come up here. Well, I come from Cebu City. I've lived there all my life, except for the number of years where I had to leave for studies in Makiling and then, of course, in Australia. But other than that, I have always lived in Cebu, which is far different from Baguio City. So Baguio is a beautiful city. So again, thank you very much. This is one great opportunity for me, to stand up here and talk to you about design thinking, specifically adopting design thinking in product design. I will start off with a little bit of history and then transition to the actual process of design thinking. I think this is a good way of explaining how it all started and where it started, so you will understand, how come we need to understand and adopt design thinking as a process. Maybe just a show of hands. Designers from the audience, please. Thank you very much. And then fine art students here. And of course, I understand there are high school students under the art and design track. Okay. Special program from the arts, maybe. Because I just came from Bacolod also, sir. And I was asked also to facilitate a workshop for grade 7 and grade 8 teachers in public high schools who are teaching a special program for the arts. And it's always good to be able to impart knowledge because, again, I think this is very important for all of us. So to begin with, so in the history of design, specifically in the 20th century, form follows function, this credo, the form follows function, was uttered frequently by many designers, many architects, actually. And one of the leading architects during this time was Sullivan. He was one of the most important architects in the 19th century. And during this time, he also built this 11-story building called Wright Building in St. Louis in Missouri in the United States. And this building actually is made up of steel in terms of base and the post. And steel actually was a byproduct and a result of the Industrial Revolution. And Sullivan, who influenced the language of architecture, argued that the exterior design of skyscrapers, which was a new invention during that time, should reflect the activities or functions that take place inside the buildings, or the form of a building should be in direct relation to its purpose. He further suggests that the exterior facade should be consistent as each interior function changes. He, in fact, identified common functions that included the mechanical utility rooms for the lower ground, and then for the lower ground would be the commercial spaces, for the mid-stories would be offices, and generally used for storage and ventilation would be the top attic area. Now, the exterior of this Wright building show organic ornamentations and carvings on terracotta panels, and these are characteristics of Sullivan's designs. Today, the building is a National Historic Landmark and is currently owned by the state of Missouri, used for state offices. Another building that architect Sullivan built was in 1896, which is very similar to the Wright building. This is the Guaranty building in Buffalo, New York. Again, this has a similar form to the Wright building because the architect or Sullivan believed that they have very similar structures, they have very similar purpose. So this building was a collaborative work of Sullivan and a German-born architect and civil engineer, Denmark. And similar to the 1890 Wright building, if you notice, the building, especially the facade of the building, or the exterior aspect of the building, focuses on ornament, combining masonry and terracotta to cover the exterior surfaces. Now, the ornamentation of the building was inspired by flowers and sea pods, and at the top of the building is the spreading of the branches of the tree. Now, around this time, most architects who actually adopted the form follows function credo were giving more attention to the integrity of the form rather than making buildings more useful for the people who actually live inside the building. Now, for designers, the form follows function, no, was very simple. In obvious terms, they believe that this is like, for example, a cup. No? A cup cannot serve the function of a cup unless it forms a semi-closed volume that can hold liquid and dispense it in a very controlled manner. No, so that's how they actually understood the form follows function credo. Now, this was often misunderstood for the ultimate form during that time, because a lot of architects or a lot of designers also actually saw form follows function as to be restrictive in terms of aesthetics and functionality. Now, one of the apprentices, or an apprentice of Louis Sullivan, is actually Frank Lloyd Wright. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with this design. So this design, actually, Falling Water, in 1935 in Pennsylvania, in Times Magazine, this was considered as one of the best, or the best design, actually, of Frank Lloyd Wright. And this was also considered as one of the architectural structures that is a must-see before we all die. So that's very interesting to know. So Frank Lloyd Wright is an American architect and interior designer, and again, he was an apprentice of Louis Sullivan, and he argued that the principle of form follows function was greatly misinterpreted. He believed that form and function are one. And while he of course, did not forget the lessons imparted by his mentor, architect Sullivan, he believes that less is more. And he also believes that more actually is no good. So his designs were influenced by the natural world, calling it organic architecture. And organic architecture basically emphasizes craftsmanship, no, but at the same time, it also focuses on the ability of it being accessible to all. So around 1930s, many industrial designers and product designers actually struggled with the inherent contradictions of the principles behind form follows function. They redesigned products to be distinguishable, you know, by making them look attractive to a particular market. But if you look at the standpoint of functionality, this was simply unnecessary. No? And so over time, you know, as the years came and went by, people started thinking differently and witnessed the transformation of sustainable designs. So again, when you say sustainable designs, no, perhaps you have heard of the concept or the idea that is called design for all or universal design. Okay. So what is design for all, or what is universal design? These are definitions. No, the design for all is the intervention in environments, products, devices with the aim that everybody, including future generations, regardless of age, gender, and capabilities or cultural background, can participate in social, economic, and leisure activities with equal opportunities. This definition was coined by the Design for All Foundation, and this organization is actually a not-for-profit organization based in Barcelona, Spain. What they do is they collect and disseminate universal design or design for all good practices. Now, on one hand, the universal design actually was conceived by an architect named Ron Mays, and this is the definition coming from the Center for Universal Design, where he was a founder and an executive director. And the definition is, this is design and composition of different products and environments to be usable to all people with the greatest extent possible without the need for adaptation of specialized designs. Okay. Ron Mays actually is an American architect and a designer, and his advocacy is for people with disability. He originally defined universal design as the design of products and environments usable by all without the need for special accommodation. And then, of course, later on, when he founded the Center for Universal Design, they changed a little bit, the definition, which I just mentioned earlier. So when you say universal design or UD, no, UD actually strives to improve on an original design to make it more inclusive, and it has high aesthetic values and of course usability. And the aim is not actually to make it a trend. Okay, what they want to happen is for this approach, to be embedded in the design, and for a particular design style, making that design style a trend. Again, there is common misconception about universal design because since this is identified, to architect Ron Mays, a lot of people thought that this is pretty much for the elderly and the disabled, or people with disability. But then in contrast, UD aspires to benefit every member of the population by promoting accessible and usable products and services and environments. Now, there are three major trends operating the change in design culture. So again, over time, when people were starting to realize the importance of design for all, or the importance of universal design, there came a paradigm shift in how people thought of design. So there are three major trends operating the change of the design culture. First, is a diverse, consumer-oriented culture on a global scale that is emerging. Do you agree? First, that there is indeed a global scale that is now consumer-oriented. Do we consider, or do you consider yourself consumer-oriented? Okay, so we know we have a diverse consumer-oriented culture, and this is on a global scale, and we value personal development. Okay, so those people, those of you who are aware of this and who participate in engaging in this kind of culture, understand their options. Or if you believe in this, you understand that you have options in terms of the designs and products that you want as an individual. So in industrial design, modern ideas which fuel the transition toward a consumer-oriented society was an adoption of advanced technology to increase in productivity in manufacturing, and the intense competition on price, for example, also led to producing and using basic forms that are easy to manufacture in vast quantities at low prices, giving the consumer more options. Now, the consumption-driven marketplace is seen most significantly in mass marketing. Mass marketing of low goods, specifically, with short design production cycles. From a perspective of affordability, for example, the product design, especially after World War II, has benefited the average person through the introduction of labor-saving devices. But if you really think about the designs that are existing, they are rather poorly designed, or in terms of lifespan, they have shorter lifespan. So there is another trend, the second of the three trends actually, is the fact that the world is aging rapidly. Okay. Now, the older population is increasing. Therefore, there is great interest now of preserving quality of life, amongst us. Now it's given more importance. And a country, for example, when you say aging rapidly, how do you define that? Now, for a country that is considered to be aging rapidly, it has to have 7% of its total population over 65 years old. Okay. Now, in March 2016, the National Institute of Health in the United States reported that the world's older population is growing at unprecedented rate, with 8.5 of people worldwide, or this is about 617 million who are aged 65 years old. The pie chart here shows that Asia region have the largest percentage of age 65 and over, both in 2015 and its projection in 2050. Japan has the oldest population in the region, but South Korea, actually, Hong Kong and Taiwan are projected to be second, third, fourth in the rank, respectively, by 2050. So, tayo, ano ba tayo? How do we rate, no, in the Philippines? Now, the Philippines, as of July 2018, so months ago, okay, the demographics actually show, no, or the demographics profiling show that there is 33.9% between 0 to 14 years old, and 36.99% is between 25 to 54 years old. But according to the Population Commission, the Philippines is aging like Japan, okay? Because as Filipinos, 65 years old now, no, in terms of number, no, is increasing to 8 million out of the projected 108 million of our population this year. Okay, so this is a very interesting, percentage, no, interesting data. And according to Juan Antonio Perez, he's the Population Commissioner, Commission Executive Director, he confirmed that there will be around 8 million Filipinos above 60, constituting 82% of the total population by the end of the year. No, so that's 60 years old. Okay. Now again, to reiterate about this, the second trend again. So the older population is increasing. No, therefore, the interest of preserving quality of life is and must be given importance. We all know that in the Philippines, for example, if I may just take this an example, no, in Cebu City, to be specific, our local government actually is giving an incentive to senior citizens. Specifically, the local government unit is giving 1,000 pesos every month, no, for all 60 years old and above. And there is an initiative, again, from the local government unit that medicines specifically for, if I'm not mistaken, diabetes and high blood pressure, yes, and of course we all know this, that these are needed specifically specifically by senior citizens and older individuals. They are being distributed to the different homes, no, just to be able to really reach out to senior citizens. So I think that's one way of giving importance to the elderly, no? And I'm sure under other cities or other places in the Philippines, these kinds of initiatives are also extended by the local government units. Okay, now the third trend actually is the economic forces are demanding higher standards of usefulness. Okay, so what does this mean? Now, as the modern era advanced, design practices were all suited to corporate clients. So medyo naiba na siya. Buildings were now stripped off, expensive ornaments, and diverted funds. No, dinadivert na nila yung funds to air conditioning, to larger windows, no, better lights, signages, parking lots, no, and other features that are more human-centered. And of course, these are all dedicated to usefulness. Now, one aspect that is given importance in putting high standards of usefulness in design is, of course, sustainability. Okay? Now, sustainable products used in buildings, for example, need to be operatable by people with limited function, but they also have to be useful for the broader population. So, hindi lang po siya limited to a particular group of individuals, but for all. In manufacturing, for example, it has placed its focus on producing completely recyclable products. That includes extraction of raw materials to be eco-friendly or green production processes from the beginning, the stage of conceptualization until, of course, the last part of its functional life. Okay. Now, in the Philippines, the Department of Trade and Industry has actually initiated projects by giving support to advance sustainable consumption and production. DTI provides incentive for producing more green goods, moving towards low carbon economy through procurement policy, and moving towards low carbon economy through specific standards. I should say that, for example, again, I'm looking at Cebu City, specifically UP Cebu. I think one of the greatest projects that DTI has actually extended the Department of Trade and Industry from my region, from the Central Visayas, to UP Cebu is its support for us to create precious plastic project. No? We got this from an open source, and this is done in the Fabrication Laboratory. Later on, I will explain further what the Fabrication Laboratory is. But in essence, we have two residence makers in the Fabrication Laboratory, and one volunteer, he's a French-Australian engineer, came over to help us and created these precious plastic machines, no, 4 different machines, and its purpose actually is to upcycle plastic. No? So while in Cebu, hindi pa po namin fully binaban yung plastic, which again, I asked earlier, very laudable for Baguio City to be able to, again, have the city really ban plastics. In Cebu po, we only have Wednesdays and Saturdays. So kind of sad, no, for such a big city. But again, these are small steps. But what the machines, the precious plastic machines is doing is for the plastics to be upcycled and to be created into useful products. No? So again, this particular project has been supported by the Department of Trade and Industry. They actually funded this project, and this is inside the Fabrication Laboratory of UP Cebu. There is, of course, a picture later on that I'm going to show and discuss further. So again, over time, no, talagang naiba na, human-centered na talaga ang nagiging proseso. So that's the reason why the concept of design thinking, no, came about. So again, what is design thinking? Throughout history, good designers have applied a human-centered creative process to build meaningful and effective solutions. And at the beginning, the practice started with learning by doing. I guess, of course, we do understand that when we were younger, we always started to learn things by actually exploring, by touching, feeling, whatever is available to us, and then we start doing it. No? So learning by doing, which is, of course, a very good practice. But when you see for designers, for example, it is a tall order, no, to actually create a product. But when it is embedded in the system, you fully understand that while this is non-linear process, you fully understand the need of each and every phase or each and every step. According to Tim Brown, he is the CEO and president of IDEO, an international design and consulting firm. He has a definition of design thinking. So this is a human-centered approach to innovation that draws from the designer's toolkit to integrate the needs of people, the possibilities of technology, and the requirements for business success. So design thinking is empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and then test. No? Again, this may sound linear, but this is a non-linear process because in each particular phase, even when you're somehow done with a particular phase, you can actually go back and learn what you have done and then apply it again to fully come up with a better product. Better in terms of aesthetics, better in terms of usability and function. So this nonlinear diagram shows a multi-dimensional systemic approach from empathizing customers' unfulfilled or unmet needs to developing creative, innovative, and sustainable product. Now, the 5 stages, again, are not always sequential, but this model puts in order the stages of the process. Now, this should not also be seen as an inflexible approach, as each stage may be conducted several times, as I mentioned, to expand possible solutions. Now, this design framework is not problem-oriented, rather solution-oriented. A very interesting exercise to further prove this statement is during its early development, an architectural professor, in fact, by the name of Brian Lawson, clarified around 1980. He studied how designers and scientists solve problems. Okay? So in an exercise where a structure was to be created with colored blocks, No? That was the challenge, to create a structure from color blocks. The scientists actually, ang ginawa po nila, they used analytical thinking to quickly break down the variables, anong mga possibilities, no, kung pwedeng, anong pwedeng combination of the blocks. And then, of course, they analyzed information, possible variables, no, and then they began an engineering investigation to come up with a way to effectively build the block structure. Okay, now, the scientists used a problem-focused approach by evaluating specific possibilities, and then they moved forward, of course, to come up with a structure build, no, based on the detailed analysis. Paano po ginawa ng designer? So, by contrast, no, architects, designers, okay, they build their blocks in order to achieve the best and use design with aesthetics and aesthetics. So the architects looked at the most favorable usage and its colored perimeter. If one perimeter design proved not to be appealing combination, then the next move favorably colored block combination would be substituted, and so on and so forth, to be able to get the visual design, you know, the best visual and design solution. And they were able to discover, you know, a really good one. So in other words, the architect, the designers looked at the aesthetics as the final product, and this is considered design or solution focused. Now, let me begin again in the 5 stage or the 5 phase of design thinking with the first one, which is to empathize. Now, an empathic designer is able to walk in someone else's shoes through research and innovation. It is very important that the designer connects and understands, you know, the needs of the users, the needs of the consumer. Now, this is the first step. So, unang step pa lang po ito. The designer must focus on human values and needs, and actually one can begin with answering the questions, what, why, no? Okay, and even how. Empathizing involves consulting experts to find out more about the area of concern through observing and engaging with people to understand their experiences and motivations, as well as immersing oneself in the physical environment, so you can actually get deeper personal understanding of the issues involved. Okay, one of the many things that I'd really like to do, especially when I happen to visit cities, no, which I also actually tell my students to do, is to visit markets. Okay. Now in Cebu, one of the more popular markets in the city is Carbon Market. No, that is where also the Freedom Park is located. This particular market is, of course, where high traffic in terms of trading, no, andyan na po lahat. And I've been able to talk to a lot of vendors, and during these conversations, always tinatanong ko po, kumusta? Magkano ba yung, ano bang, because I've made friends with them already. So, tinatanong ko, for example, if I may just say in the local dialect, nagtatanong po ako ng, kumusta naman? Pila may halinato diha, no? So, kumusta? Magkano ba yung ating sales dyan, no? And then they would always tell me that it's not doing good, okay? And they're always dependent on suki nila pang araw-araw. And I think when talking to them, one of the reasons for this is the fact that I think similar to any market, no, perhaps is the fact that if not all of them, no, most of them are selling the same products. Actually, no, pare-parehong binibenta. So kung meron yung isa, meron din yung isa. So what is the advantage na lang ng bawat tindera is of course charm perhaps para kung saan bibili, or of course the pricing, no. So minsan I stopped by a stall na naging kaibigan ko. Her name is Letty actually, and we used to be connected to the same corporate. I used to be working in a hotel actually, no, for 12 years before I joined the academe. And Letty was a colleague of mine, and now she owns a stall in Carbon Market. And I usually go to her when I need, for example, ribbons na ginagawa po namin for ribbon cutting in UP, or the different projects, no, mga raw materials, mga sinamay kind of mesh that we use, which is very interesting, that you can do different things from it. May mga different baskets. And she would always tell me na tulungan mo naman ako because wala, no, it's not very good every day. And then I asked her, so how do you survive? Paano mo nasusustain? How do you deal with your clients? Apparently, clients now have become more discriminating over time. And so she goes, well, I always ask them, sige, if they go there and ask me, okay, she's interested in a particular basket, for example, to be used for a giveaway for wedding or debut. And then, kaya lang sinasabi, gusto ko ito, but kasi yung kulay, hindi yung kulay ng wedding, diba? They have a particular color. So, what Letty does, of course, is really come up with something and say, we can do that, even if it's kind of difficult. We can do that. No, we can have this into the color that you want. Or pag sinasabi, I don't like the handle of the basket, perhaps it can be this or that. And Letty would say, kaya namin yan. No, we can do that. Just give us time and then come back. And then, so they're trying actually to serve their consumer, which is good. But on one hand, how can that be sustained for a long time? Diba? So, nagiging problema din po siya. So, again, this is difficult. While I fully say, I cannot, of course, say that it is easy. It sounds easy, but the process is really difficult because, for one, again, Letty, no, and yung mga kasamahan niya in carbon market may not be able to get the supplies for the materials that they promised their customer. And then, pangalawa, of course, not necessarily underestimating Letty's aesthetics and her design, background. From time to time, she would call me, but then, of course, she would tell me that I should be attending one of your classes, or I should be attending, maybe dropping by in the Fabrication Laboratory and asking for more support, which is, again, good, because that is also one of the advocacies we have in the Fabrication Laboratory. But, again, it is very important that if you are a designer, you're able to walk in someone else's shoes and then, like, for example, understand exactly what they need, what they want. Okay, but again, this is just the first phase. No? The second phase, when you are able already to get as much data from your consumers, from the users, no? Kung anong pangangailangan nila, ano bang kulang, diba? The second one would be defining the problem. Ano ba? No? So from the research, from the data that you get in the market, you try to collate all this data, analyze, synthesize, and then process, whatever observations you have to be able to really understand and come up with a design problem. Ano ba talaga ang nagiging problema ng mga designers? Ano ba talaga ang nagiging problema in the market? No? So that, of course, the designer would be able to come up with possible solution. Now again, one of the things that we teach our students, for example, when they are having face-to-face with their consumers, is to do mood boards. Okay, now mood boards are very helpful, actually. Now, a mood board is a type of collage of images and text put together to give a general idea or story. Now, this segues initial thoughts from the first attempt to visualize the idea. Kasi minsan, if you talk to consumer, hindi kayo nagkakaintindihan. No? Kung anong gusto niya, hindi mo nagigets immediately. Now, one aspect or one way to be able to connect yourself directly to the consumer is to come up with mood boards. No? Mood boards would actually help you get the feel. So, very visual siya. Now, you give it to your customer or you show it to your customer, and then the customer would be able to get the feel. Ano ba? Mood boards can, for example, show similar ideas, no? And then color theme. And then masasabi na ng customers, something like that. Medyo na. So again, you start to connect, no, with your consumer, to connect with the users. Mood boards are very helpful. Okay. Now, ideation. I should say that this is one of the most challenging part and perhaps one of the longest, no, in terms of process of design thinking. Okay. Now, as a designer, you have to be an optimist, okay? Because you have to believe, firstly, that there is a solution to the problem that you are facing, no? So, importante po yan. Now, for the kinds of design, when
we are trying to consider different designs, it is very important na the designer is not just technically competent, okay, but the designer must have a well-developed aesthetic appreciation. When you think of aesthetic application or aesthetic appreciation, we're talking of the fundamental elements of visual arts, elements of design. No? And this would really help in a way when the designer starts to ideate, when the designer starts to think of ano bang mga pwedeng solution, ideas, no, na pwede for my particular market or for a particular consumer. Now, while many designers are well equipped with computer graphic competencies, I'd like to say that designers must understand the value of aesthetic experience, particularly the visual world, and in this sense, the designer must be able to know how to draw. I still believe that the skill in drawing is fundamental. The reason why I'm saying this, because we have students, if I may just say, we have students in the fine arts program. Dalawa po yung aming specialization in UP Cebu. There's fine arts major in studio arts, and the other one is fine arts major in product design. And students, especially in the beginning, they have this understanding that if you are in the studio arts, this drawing is very important. If you are in the product design, computer yung kailangan mong, computer graphics, yung kailangan mong technique. Well, I'm saying, yes, it's true, but we still believe that drawing is still fundamental. No? Dapat, regardless, designer ka, and then of course, if you are in the studio arts or artist, fundamental po talaga yung drawing. No? A designer who is able to draw, okay, can easily see through how the final product will work. No? Makikita niya. Okay, pag marunong siya mag-drawing. Okay, kasi kailangan ng visualization. Working drawings are often only the first step in a long process, creating a tangible three-dimensional object. Again, as I mentioned earlier, also, this is one of the most challenging processes sa mga estudyante namin. Kasi po, there are a lot of instances as part of exercises where we ask them to actually create 50 drawings out of a particular idea. And then I remember one time, one student came to me and told me, Miss, wala na pong mapipiga. Di na kaya. 50 drawings, di po talaga kaya. And then I said, well, it's part of the discipline, and we're not asking you to do it overnight, diba? But this is important. Talagang, if you need inspiration, take a walk. That's what I told. Take a walk. And, sometimes you don't really need to go far and look from afar. It's just beside you. So we told them that. Now, over time, this same student actually came back to me and said, Ma'am, yung 50 drawings, actually, wala lang pala yun. Ko, bakit? She actually was accepted in one of the more prominent designers in Cebu, and during her OJT stint. Ang nangyari po ay, when she was there, she was actually asked to do 100 designs coming from a flattened Coca-Cola can. So different designs, kung anong lalabas lang, but from a Coca-Cola flattened can. And she goes, hindi lang po yun. When he was able to get those designs, those different concepts or ideas that I was able to come up, which was really not easy. It took me years. No, it took me a long while. He goes, yung from the selected 20, siguro if I'm not mistaken, he wanted me to do 50 versions and alterations of that. So talagang sabi ko, well, if you're a designer, this is part of the discipline, and again, it's never easy. But only because at the end of the day, the products that come up or result from this particular process goes to the consumers, goes to the people who will be using it, which is really very important, that a kind of discipline is developed early on, especially to those individuals who wants to be designers. Okay, so after that step, so we go to prototyping. Now, okay. So a prototype actually is a draft version, a simulation, a model, an early sample of a product. Okay. Now, creating a prototype enables testing and redefining the functionality of the design. There are, of course, different types of different types of prototyping, but it depends on the purpose, para saan po siya. Now, for products, one may actually choose from three that I'm going to mention. The first one is a functional prototype. This is common, a common prototype that we ask our students to do, especially if they do designs that focuses on the function. So when they start giving us a prototype, we always do ask them to do a functional prototype for us to see, a simulation of how the product functions. Therefore, we are able to give them feedback on how it can be improved in terms of functionality. Okay, so again, the production of this form of prototype, if it's a functional prototype, provides a clear demonstration of the viability of the product, yet allows for changes to increase the usability and desirability of the final version. Another example of prototype is aesthetic prototype. Okay? Now, this highlights on the feelings and pleasure and satisfaction evoked by the buyer. Now, this may show color. This may show and focus on color, shape, texture, or the actual feel of the product. And oftentimes, pag ganito, consumers may prefer, halimbawa, softer materials, to harder ones. So, usually when the student or the designer is at this phase, for example, and a student, for example, and comes to me and say, Ma'am, hindi ko pa po magagamit yung actual material for my prototype. So I always tell them, okay, do a functional, aesthetic prototype, but you can always, for example, come up with or provide swatches, smaller versions of the actual material, so that when you present that to your customer, present it to a client, for example, or the user, they could get the actual feel. And by doing so, it is a lot easier for them to confirm that particular material over another one. So medyo, when that is done, then parang, okay, at least that is achieved. Next, ano bang ibang aspeto pa ng problema na kailangang isolve, But that is a very good way of handling, for example, aesthetic prototype. Another one would be rapid prototyping. Okay, so this is using computer numeric machines. This enables design alternatives prior to testing or actual production. Now, this is done using a computer-aided software or other assembly software. Now, since an initial prototype is hardly ever perfect, because again, it is a simulation, it is a model, an early version, rapid prototyping makes a possible series of releases that allow for fine-tuning and product. One advantage, for example, for this, is indeed when you have the appropriate machines to be able to do a rapid prototyping. Again, we are fortunate that in UP Cebu, we have what we call a fabrication laboratory. Okay, and the fabrication laboratory actually has different machines, CNCs, or computer numeric control machines, which does prototyping faster and more accurate. And we are the first in Cebu, and there are actually 4 more actually in the whole of the province of Cebu. And currently we are, yung aming dalawang resident makers are the one training the technical support, or we call them resident makers of the other fab laboratories outside of the UP Cebu. But again, these are machines that will fully help in terms of prototyping, coming up with more accurate prototypes. The final stage in the whole design thinking process is testing. I say it's a final stage, but definitely this is not the end stage talaga. When you are evaluating or testing a design to improve, this is to improve life solution from the functional perspective. It is important to assess actually 2 criteria, usability and development. Okay, now these criteria concentrate on the understanding of the design and the durability of the materials or elements being used. For example, furniture manufacturers They must develop an in-depth understanding of testing requirements applicable to their products and incorporate these considerations into the product design process at the earliest possible stages. While testing furniture is subject to the kind of furniture and its use, testing may include, for example, flammability, performance and endurance, and product packaging. Okay. Flammability testing actually will determine the ability of material, product, or assembly that can withstand or should withstand fire or heat, no, at a particular level in terms of heat. This will help designer understand the responses when the product is exposed to specific conditions. The test packaging. This is during the design and production processes, and this is advantageous, truly advantageous. This will determine how a particular type of packaging will perform when exposed to various real-world conditions and demands. This is why the top packaging designer, or this is why a top packaging designer would work with certified package testing laboratories where engineers help guarantee that you have optimal tailor-fit packaging solutions. If I may just go back to the process of ideating. While we say that we're focusing on designers doing the job, collaboration work actually is key. Okay, now why is this so? If you remember earlier, I mentioned about Brian Lawson and his exercise that he gave actually to architects, designers, and also to scientists. When you actually do a product, or even in the process of ideating a product, and a designer would have his own perception of looking at things. But the inputs coming from, for example, an engineer, a marketing analyst, or for example, somebody whose expertise is on materials, tulong-tulong silang lahat. It's advantageous that collaboration is being done because then different perspectives would come into the picture, therefore, resulting to a more viable and in terms of usability and functionality, meron ng iba-iba ang nakikita, ibang angulo ang nakikita. So mas effective ang nagiging resulta for the product. So again, collaboration is key. That's the reason why also in testing, at the beginning, pwede po, you can invite, for example, engineers who are very familiar with the product and who would have idea in terms of the physics, or things that's needed to be able to protect the product, especially if the product needs to be transferred or moved about, not just for one area. Or for example, when the product is being packaged, to be not as it is, but to be transported to another place. Now, one of the very basic exercise that we ask our students to do, perhaps you have heard of this, is the egg drop. Have you heard of the egg drop? Okay, now, the egg drop actually is a very interesting exercise. I've also done this way back, and it was difficult for me to really do it perfectly. The egg drop actually is, you have a raw, hilaw na itlog, raw egg. You're asked to put this in a box, karton. And at a predetermined height, dapat ibabagsak mo siya na hindi, it will not break. Again, oftentimes, the first time you do it, you're going to fail. And over time, you realize that the way the egg needs protection, not just the outer core, the outer packaging, or yung karton na panlabas, even the inside, how you're going to layer the different cartons, the different material to protect the egg is key. Again, it's a very interesting exercise, and it's one of those that we ask our students to do, and really, only a few, by luck, I suppose, also, kasama na rin po yun, really get it perfectly, really get it right. But they do it twice, 3 times, until, of course, they're able to really protect the raw egg and not break it when it falls down to the ground. Okay, so again, that's a very, very interesting exercise that we do. Now, I mentioned earlier that the design thinking is nonlinear, and this involves cross-functional teams. Okay, but also, like I mentioned, engineers, marketeers, mga businessmen, pwede, finance and sales people, as well as users, customers, and its stakeholders. Now, At key stages of the process, okay, activities can involve co-design or participatory design workshops, if at all possible. And this process does not empower designers. Baka kasi sabihin, ay, nawalan kami ng parang exclusivity to the design. No? But this actually helps ensure that the problem is examined and from multiple perspectives and that nothing is actually overlooked. I think that's very important. The distinctive aspects of the design thinking process are its central focus, again, to its end users, to customers' needs, and its collaborative nature as a team activity. No? Again, if it's collaborative work, which at the beginning really is needed, no, and emphasized. Now, in practicing and adopting design thinking process, the design for all, or UD, or the universal design principles, must also be considered. Producers or designers need to understand that to be successful in the broader marketplace, products and services must be easier to use, healthier, and friendlier for people who do not have disabilities as well as those who do. And they must provide worth the cost compared to the competition. Not only should they be affordable, but should also be attractive, okay, durable, and most of all, meet the needs of the consumers. A creation with distinctive features in the product that will make it difficult for competitors to copy or imitate. One of the things also that we highlight, for example, because one of the challenges for that many designers would face, no, is the fact that parang yung naisip mo na konsepto or naisip mo na design solution is already in the market. So parang andun eh. So ano pang pwedeng gawin, no? Parang nalilimitahan. So okay, students, again, for the students, we always tell them, what is the story behind the product? That can be your unique selling proposition, your USP, unique selling point. Find a story. No? For all you know, the product that you do, or for example, there is an additional aspect in the design that you put into the product would help, for example, a group of people. There's one company in Cebu, no, led by a very young lady, Anya Lim, and it's called Ant Hill Gallery. And what they do is they incorporate different fabric materials done by women in Mindanao, in, I think, mountain barangays, no, in Bukidnon and Zamboanga. And they incorporate this in their, for example, clothes, in the apparel. No? And this has become actually a trend. A lot of people really appreciate this. And one of the highlights, because a lot of times people will ask them, pareho naman yung design. No? But always, when this, for example, this kind of fabric are incorporated, no, to the apparel or to the design of the wearables, for example, you put a different meaning, you put a story to what we can say common is already in the market. And so this lady, no, my friend Anya, she would always, for example, when she does her talks, she would always emphasize that this has become an advocacy. The design, no, of what they do in their products has become an advocacy, because when you purchase your products, this actually also helps a group of women weavers in the mountain barangay of Bukidnon. No? And then now what they're doing, because in the southern part of Cebu, particularly in a municipality in Aragao, we have also what we call hablon, no? Which is done handloom by local weavers. And we also have designers, fashion designers now, who actually help them, no, by using their particular fabric and incorporating this fabric in their long gowns, in the clothes that they design, which is again doing very well in Cebu. So again, one of the unique selling proposition could also be the story behind the product. No? So that would really be putting another interesting aspect in the product that the designer actually is doing. So designers should acknowledge that design thinking is already and will continue to be part no, of the whole tool set. And that other disciplines now actually, hindi lang po yung mga designers who do products, no, design products, but even corporations or corporate institutions, they actually have adopted and embraced the concept of design thinking, no, because they fully understand that this process, at the end of the day, would really meet the unmet needs of their customers, of their users. So this design process actually is very helpful in terms of sustainability and expanding the organization. No? So ito na ang ginagawa ngayon, ang ginagamit ngayon. Okay? Now, actually, I'm towards the last part of this lecture. Now, before showing the last part, which is an audiovisual presentation of the Fabrication Laboratory. Now, one of the reasons why I wanted to share this with you, it's because there is a lot of design thinking process that happens actually inside the Fabrication Laboratory. Now, the Fab Lab, to give you a brief background, our Fab Lab actually is just pretty much 2-3 years old. This is a partnership between UP Cebu. We provided the space, and the Department of Trade and Industry actually purchased most of the machines that we have. This was launched in June of 2016, and it was open to the public in actually September, no, of the same year. A fabrication laboratory, the concept actually is patterned from MIT, no, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and this is a service shared facility, accessible to all. That's the meaning of a service shared facility. So this is not an exclusive use to the University of the Philippines stakeholders, students, faculty, hindi po. This is open to the public as an advocacy po and a way of helping specifically creative individuals, designers, engineers, MSMEs, or the micro, small, medium-sized enterprises who would need accessibility to technology, who would need assistance in terms of helping develop their designs. So what do we have in the Fabrication Laboratory? Okay. Meron po kami doong laser cutter machine. So again, these are all CNCs, or computer numeric control machines. So we have a laser cutter. We have a CNC milling, a shop bot. We have a large format printer. We have 3D printers. Actually, we have 3D printers. And early next year po, apparently the DTI, I'm also very happy. The DTI is happy, with how we manage the Fabrication Laboratory. Next year, early next year, we're expanding, and they're also giving us a metal laser cutter and a 3D scanner. Okay, so again, what we do in the Fab Lab, we have 2 resident makers. One who actually is into the machines, parang technician namin, and the other one who is a graduate of the ComSci program of UP. So he's also into design, and we have also another faculty member who's an engineer, whose background is engineering, and I'm also managing the Fab Lab. And we actually opened this facility to different individuals. So we have students from other universities, because we're the only one within Cebu City who has this facility. So students from architecture, even from those students taking up dentistry, aeronautics, they go to UP Cebu and have, different concepts made into something tangible. So they use our different facilities, and we charge them minimally because we're very friendly. And again, because this is not for commercial use. But we hope, actually, the ultimate thing here is we hope for this to be sustainable, eventually. So we organize different events. We call this the Think, Make, Break sessions. We invite different speakers. We organize community meetups, makers meetups, and then we discuss innovations, kung ano bang bago, and then we help each other. By teaching them how to use the machine. So at the beginning, they go there and ask our resident makers to teach them. And then eventually, they go there and use the machines themselves. So yung aming resident maker ay tumitingin na lang if the machines are being used properly. So ngayon, dumadami na po. We're like, again, 3 years old. So we're increasing in terms of the number of clients. and we're very proud of that. And this is one also of the facilities that we have. Again, I mentioned this earlier. This is our precious plastics project, taken from an open source, but the resident makers and yung aming volunteer who helped us create this. We have an extruding machine, shredder, we have an injection machine and a compression machine. So we process plastics, PETs. Yung ating PETs po, yung regular water bottles, no, and the common plastics. And then we process them in these machines, and ang end product could be something that is useful. What we have tried po, because we have not really maximized yet, but what we have tried so far, no, is we have come up from the different shredded plastics. For example, the cover of the drinking bottles. So we put that in the shredder, for example, and they become little bits and pieces. And then from there, we can put that either in the extruding machine, where ang lumalabas lang po is parang isang straight na parang melted plastic. And yung aming pinaka dream, big dream, is for it eventually to be used as our filament for our 3D printer. No, it's still a tall order, but we're hoping to be able to do that in the future. So we have that, and then from there we can also actually design bangles. So recycled plastic na po yung aming bangles and other little materials that we can actually do. No? So it would actually excite a lot of people to go there and try to experiment it themselves. Yung aming injection machine po, again, we put in the shredded plastic, and gumagamit kami ng mold, so we can already come up with something. Put it in the compression machine. We can come up actually with bowls, no, plastic usable bowls from there. We have students who actually use that and came up with slabs already of plastic, and that can already be used for whatever purpose. No? So from the plastic that we see in the streets, so we can actually recycle and upcycle them to something useful. No? So that is something that, again, it's not yet perfectly done, but something that we continue to do and excite us and the rest of the resident makers and the makers community in Cebu City. So again, for my last slide, allow me to share with you, no, just an AVP of our we are able to do We're able to do our own giveaways. We're able to do coasters, for example, boxes, even stools, the chairs that we have in the Fab Lab. We're able to do that. Yes, so again, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Again, a warm applause to Professor Tudtud. I'm sure marami tayong mga tanong at reaction, lalong-lalo na dun sa nabuksan yung curiosity natin dun sa mga napanood nating video, as well as adopting the design thinking in product design. But first, let us hear first the reaction from Professor Ilagan before we open the open forum. Professor Ilagan, please.
Magandang umaga po. Actually, may tatlo akong naiisip na question, reaction, and siguro a little sharing. Yung una, I'd like to ask our speaker, with the global trend of design thinking process, how would you rate and or assess the implementation and or adoption of this concept in our country? Can you cite specific examples? And who are the institutions responsible in implementing the concept? No? So kung ito ay globally popular na, paano inadapt sa Pilipinas, and in particular siguro, pwedeng sa Cebu or baka pwede nating tingnan dito sa Baguio City. And as an entrepreneur, no, kasi negosyante rin ako eh. I am interested on, nasaan na ba yung aking notes? Parang, sandali ha. Paano namin ma-avail, no? Yung Fab Lab na ito, no? Parang, how can we avail the services or the machines, no? To make our production faster at saka accurate, no? So paano namin ito ma-avail? Through the DTI or like I am happy to be informed by our chancellor na sabi niya hindi lang pala sa Cebu ang UP Baguio magkakaroon din ng ganyan, no? Hindi tayo magpapahuli. So malapit magkakaroon din tayo ng mga machines na ganyan. So mga freshmen, be ready. Maglalaro din kayo niyan. Hindi tayo pahuhuli. So bilang isang entrepreneur, parang gusto ko lang i-share din na yung habang nagpo-process ang nagdi-discuss kanina yung ating speaker, masaya ako personally kasi merong nasasagot doon sa aking tanong at mga problema sa production, no? Kasi we are in the process of developing our product. Yung produkto po namin ay yung Mika-san Mika-san Sweet Shop, no? So, ang problem kasi namin ay yung product namin ay naka PET plastic, no? Actually, pino-question din kami doon. Bakit parang hindi environmental? Pero pigain man namin yung isip namin, hindi pa kami makaisip ng other alternative kung paano gagawing papel or paano, no? So, yung may limitation kasi yon, no? Yung aming packaging na yon, pag pinadala mo, sabi nga kanina, yung egg drop testing, nagtitest din kami nun. And in the process din, yung doon sa design, thinking, hindi nga siya non-linear. Kasi na-experience ko yon, no? So, nag-egg drop testing kami, sinubukan namin magpadala sa mga kaibigan namin sa Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao, nung product namin through the usual LBC, dun sa freight, natin, services. At after that, tatanungin natin, gaano katagal dumating? Pagdating, anong hitsura, pakipicturan, parang ganon. Pagdating, talagang tunaw na siya, durog na siya, hindi na siya aesthetically pleasing. So, nakakasira yon ng imahe ng produkto, no? Yung aesthetic nawawala. So, paano natin, ang isang problema, ang daming nagre-request sa amin na export yung product. paano namin ilalabas kung ganito? Hindi siya magiging maganda. So, ang sabi nga, kailangan mong pigain 50 drawings or more. Hindi lang ganun yon, ano? Talagang babalik ka sa drawing board, mag-iisip ka ng idea, magko-consult ka ng ibang may mga scientist, kung ano mang field na pwede mong tanungin, paano gawin. At tama yung sinasabi kanina ng ating speaker na maglakad ka, magtanong, no? Maghanap ka ng ideya. Ako, personally, ang ginagawa ko, kung nagta-travel ako, ang isa kong ina-explore ay yung mga airports, no? Ano ang binibenta sa mga duty-free shops abroad? At napansin ko yon, ang isa sa kanilang mga binibenta, kahit hindi masarap ang kanilang laman, ang produkto, ang tsokolate, maganda ang packaging. So, bumibili ako noon at kahit hindi siya masarap, hindi ko kakainin, bibilhin ko lang because of the packaging. Yon, no? So, at habang sa pagta-travel ko, pick up ako ng mga ideas. At ang isa sa mga nakita ko doon, ang isang packaging design na talagang kahit itapon mo at ay gumagamit ng box. So right now, meron kaming dahil doon sa egg drop experiment namin, nakita nga namin na hindi pwedeng ganon ilabas sa ibang bansa yung produkto namin, no? Ang ginagawa namin, gumawa kami ng isang product na ngayon ay bagong labas sa market. Mikasan pa rin pero bonbons, meaning instead of the bars, ginawa namin na bilog-bilog siya, no? In cups na siya. Oo. Para kahit itapon mo at ito ay nasa saucy plastic jars na. And of course, dahil medyo saucy plastic jars na siya, mag-entail din talaga siya ng mas malaking production cost. Kaya yung target market namin, yung clients namin, ay hindi na sa public market, no? So ito, medyo mas mataas na rin. Iba na rin yung target market kasi you have to know your client nga, di ba? So, yung sa public market, popular doon ang Mikasan na nasa jar, yun yung classic namin. And ngayon, naglabas kami ng bonbons kasi yun yung na-research namin from our client na ito pala ang pwedeng i-travel kahit saan, no? Kahit saan mo dalhin. At kahit mahulog pa siya, ibato mo pa siya, buo pa rin siya. So, at ang isang dito concern namin ay yung packaging design kasi ang isang nakita namin ngayon, lalo na sa mga millennials, ang mga millennials ngayon, kahit magkano yan, basta mas maganda, cute, saucy ang dating, panregalo. So, yun yung market nun, no? Kaya may mga nagtatanong bakit hindi nyo dinidisplay sa public market? Kasi hindi sila ang client, hindi sila target audience. Ang isang although nasa palang drawing board, yun nga, maglalabas kami ng tatapatan din namin yung nasa box na nakita din namin sa mga airports abroad, no? Nung nag-visit kami sa Turkey, may maganda silang packaging design na yun ang naisip naming babagay doon sa bars na ilalabas abroad. And just like what we observe, yung packaging design nila, nagpo-promote din sila hindi lang ng product kundi ng kanilang bansa. So ito rin, lalagyan din namin, marami din tayong ipopromote, nandiyan yung rice terraces. Lalagyan namin ng, katulad ng sinabi, merong kwento, no? Yung ilalagay natin ang ating kultura. So yun yung mga, habang nakikinig ako, nagninilay-nilay ako, sabi ko, eto na lang ang aking i-react, isi-share. And I am also happy to share na yung dinidiscuss kanina na design thinking na non-linear, sabi ko, ang tanong ko kasi nung una sa ating speaker, ano ba ang kaibahan nito sa dating ginagawa? Or ito ba ay bago? No? Habang ina-assess namin ni Joanne, sabi namin, ganyan naman ang ginagawa natin dito sa fine arts. So, hindi talaga tayo nahuhuli. Talagang yung proseso na yung sinasabi kanina, no, yung empathize, define, ideate, prototype, testing, ginagawa natin yon. Ang medyo nahuhuli lang tayo ng konti kasi wala nga tayong mga makinarya dun sa prototype making, no? Kasi mano-mano lang talagang ginagawa ng ating mga estudyante. Pero nandoon yung design, nandoon yung aesthetic, no? At yung sa testing naman, ginagawa natin ang testing by inviting specialists from other fields, no? So nagpipresent ang mga estudyante ng kanilang mga output sa isang panel. At ito ay nililitis, no? Yung talagang dadaan sa isang panel at ibabalik uli nila sa drawing board, gagawin uli nila, ganun yung proseso. So masaya ako na sabihin na hindi tayo nahuhuli, na tayo ay nandoon, no? Sumusunod tayo sa ganung takbo. And hopefully in the future nga, kung matapos na nga magkaroon tayo ng sarili nating Fab Lab, gano'n na rin, no? Tuwang-tuwa na sila. O, may future ang mga freshie yun dito. Okay, so, yun lang po at yun lang po.
Thank you so much, ma'am. To answer the question of Professor Ilagan.
Thank you, Professor Ilagan. I think yung first aspect lang po. If the design thinking process is being universally practiced, I'd like to think that kulang pa po in the Philippines. To be more specific, I'm not, of course, I don't have the right to put Baguio City in the context of my answer, but like specifically in Cebu. Cebu is known for furnitures. Cebu is known for fashion design. Cebu is known for accessories. A lot of the designers and owners that I know in Cebu have been schooled abroad. No? If not all, a lot of them, especially those who are really making a name for themselves, have been schooled abroad. And because of that, they were able to embrace and practice the design thinking process. But truly, when you talk to them, in Cebu, in the actual manufacturing, they always tell me na, because kulang din po ang mga designers in their companies. Ang nagde-design, sila rin po. No, the owners rin. They don't really have designers like from the academe, no, to really put it bluntly. Therefore, they always say that ang nangyayari from their end, of course, because limited sila lang, no, nalilimitahan, hindi na ma-maximize the actual design thinking process. No? So medyo kulang in the approach. And so I think, especially because coming from the academe, I look at this as somehow one thing that the academe can look into and work on. No? There are a lot of designers in Cebu, but there are also so many companies that still need designers. That's the reason why I'm very happy that the product design program is actually doing very well. Because when we talk to, for example, when we invite people from the industry with DTI and we do a focus group discussion, and especially when we do our curriculum revision, we always ask the public, no, the industry, what kind of designers do you need? What kind, in terms of competency, sa mga designers do you need, you don't have, that kami from the academe can somehow help fill out the gap. No? So they would tell us. And so it's a good partnership between the industry players and the academe. And it's very helpful because then we know that there is a future of the future among in terms of employability ng aming mga product design graduates, no? And true enough. So now, because we are really putting the design thinking process as a mindset among our students, then I'd like to think that in the future, Cebu will have much better products, no? In fact, because we also have a fabrication laboratory, which, as I mentioned earlier, is open to the public, no, service shared facility. And we invite, a lot of times, yung aming MSMEs, to come and join us and like share whatever they have, whatever their concerns, that we can discuss and perhaps help them find a solution. Um, then I can say that from their end, for example, from the story of Letty and the other, um, well, yung mga vendors in carbon market, for example, and those who really want to also meet the unmet needs of their customers, can then come up with better design solutions to the public that is really in need of that. So yun po. And again, I'm very happy that because I am a witness to the success and to the opportunities and the benefits that a fabrication laboratory would give a community, especially because we are an academic institution. Ang laki ng advantage that we have it, and alam ko that the Department of Trade and Industry would always partner with an academic institution, because there are four other fabrication laboratory actually in Cebu, but kami yung nauna, and it's always anchored on a state university, Cebu Technical University yung iba, based in other municipalities, but it's always like that. So I'm very positive that DTI would really work on having a fabrication laboratory here in UP Baguio. And that will really help out our students. And of course, but it's not saying that because we are into technology, we forget the other aspects of design, like, really working with our hands, like actual drawing, mastering the competency of drawing. We use that side by side with learning, digital and technology-based computers or facilities or machines.
Hello. Thank you, ma'am. Now we're open to 2 questions since we don't have plenty of time. Would like to ask? Yes, please.
Good morning, ma'am. I'm Roxanne po from Philippine Science High School. I'm teaching arts, design, and technology. And medyo, I have a list kasi, ma'am. So, okay. Ma'am, first, I would like to ask, what is the difference between design thinking and the engineering design process? Because so far, as I have seen, medyo very similar po sila. And second, could you elaborate, ma'am, what is the difference? Because I'm an engineer, and of course, we are under the OST. So, parang you mentioned that scientists and it's true that we are problem-oriented. So I would like to see, or could you elaborate the difference between solution-oriented and problem-oriented? Kasi, syempre, as thinking, what would you solve or what would you give solution kung wala ka namang problem? So parang ganun, hindi ko ma-figure kung how would you be solution-oriented with that matter. So the third, ma'am, hindi na po siya question. Hindi naman po siya question, don't worry. So nakita ko kasi na you have all the facilities and everything. Yung, may I suggest kung you're looking on products about plastic, how about you look into eco bricks? Kasi it's very, it's needed, and with your facilities, pwede nyo sigurong magawa yun. And in kay ma'am po, yung Fab Lab, Pisay Car po kasi is planning into that, pero if you would like something closer than Cebu na may Fab Lab, ma'am, yung, may SLU, and syempre Pisay, ipopromote ko yung Pisay. Yung Pisay Ilocos po, meron din silang Fab Lab, and kompleto in coordination also with DTI. Yun po, ma'am. Thank you.
Roxanne. Okay. Thank you very much for the question, Roxanne. I think I'd like to answer the second question, una, then the first question, which deals with engineering and the design thinking process. The second question, again, okay. Iniisip ko lang, that, okay, so ito na lang. Let me first answer yung first question, on the design, and then the second question on, the first question is the solution and problem, the difference between the solution and problem. That's the first question. And then the second question is Okay, is that because you have two questions actually? Okay, the difference. Actually, I realized that there are similarities. In fact, it's very similar, no? If you look back again on Brian Lawson, no, on how he analyzed, and he said that architects, designers are more into solution-oriented, no? The other one, engineering, is more into the problem base. I think it's the process that goes into when they actually solve a problem. No, scientists are, I think, because they come from a left brain, if I'm not mistaken. They're more logical, more analytical. Diba, the left brain and the right brain theory. No, so they're more left brain, so logical and analytical. That's the reason why they are focused into that. Whereas on the other hand, if you talk of architects and designer, they're more right brain. So they're more of like colors and intuition and what is aesthetics, no, more aesthetically pleasing. But it's true. I go into the process that's somehow would differ. But at the end of the day, I would also really say that they're pretty much overlapping. In fact, they're very similar. And even now, I would still say that the line, the delineation between study of engineering and design has become thinner. Because it is very important, in fact, that both engineering and design should work hand in hand in finding a better solution to the problem. So where that is concerned, actually overlapping na po yan, no? The way I look at it. Now when we ask students to actually find a solution, we actually ask them to talk to our computer science students. We ask them to go down to, yung aming second floor kasi po kami, we ask them to go and seek students from the sciences and ask them about materials, ask them, materials manipulation, ask them, because again, process, and then at the end of the day, yung sinasabi mo, it's true, no? Wala namang problema kung saan manggagaling, no? So wala tayong solution na hinahanap, diba? So there, it's overlapping, and the line between engineering and art or design is now thinning, the gap is now thinning, and what we need is really working together to come up better products. Yun po ang nakikita ko.
Thank you, ma'am. One more question? Here.
Ma'am, short question lang. So, nabanggit niyo po kanina yung doon sa discriminating consumers. So, yung tanong ko lang po is how can we bridge up the needs of discriminating consumers from that of the universal design approach?
I think it's human nature. When I talk that we have become more discriminating in terms of taste, no? See, a lot of people, for example, if you can afford something, you always find something that for you, no, is good for you, and you don't mind paying more. In fact, for example po, because now we're concerned on what's happening within the environment. Most of us, if not all of us, are concerned that we want the lifespan, no, of the earth, for example, natatagal pa po. So we're trying to help each other, no, find ways to, for example, address plastic problem, or trying, for example, in Cebu, marami po kami ring ukay-ukay tulad ng Baguio, and we know that there is a problem on fast fashion, no. So we're trying to find solution where that is concerned. So when we say discriminating taste, discrimination, no, as consumers, we try to incorporate, for example, our consciousness na yung produkto would help solve the environment, and we don't mind paying a little bit more, no? For as long as nakakatulong naman yan, so we don't mind. But we become more discriminating. And by doing so, parang it's advocating na yung mga producers, yung mga gumagawa ng mga produkto have to incorporate the consciousness of helping the environment, because there is a market, or the current market now has become more discriminating and really wouldn't pay a little bit more for as long as it helps us, no, to have a better place to live. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, so since wala na po tayong masyadong oras, no, so napahalagan po namin yung pagdala ng lahat dito sa ating ika-4 na serye ng Talastasan. Now, to award the certificate, I call on Professor Avillas to join us on stage to award the certificate. But first, let me read the citation. University of the Philippines, Baguio, College of Arts and Communication. This certificate of appreciation is presented to Professor Palmy Marinel Tudtud for her active and invaluable participation as resource person during the Talastasan Lecture, Art and Creativity Conversation Series held on November 14, 2018 at Teatro Amianan, College of Arts and Communication, University of the Philippines, Baguio, Baguio City. Given this 14th day of November 2018 at Teatro Amianan, College of Arts and Communication, signed by Dr. Jimmy Fong and Professor Raimundo Rovillos. Muli, isang masigabong palakpakan para kay Professor Tudtud. Okay. Everyone is invited to watch Tanabata's Wife that will be shown here at Teatro Amianan on November 18 at 9 a.m., 11 a.m., 2 p.m., 4 p.m., and 7 p.m. For details and for ticket details, please go to Tanabata's Wife Facebook page. One more reminder for the participants, please don't forget to submit the evaluation form so that you can get your certificate of attendance. So thank you for coming and salamat po sa inyong pagdalo.